Thanks for joining me today, Joe fans. This is Nicholas, also known as In Like Flint. Today we are going to be taking a look at the 1983 Duke. And here he is. You can see there's actually quite a few. I'm going to show off the different versions of Flint that came. Oh wow, I'm going to show off the different versions of Duke that came later, how he relates in the chain of command to Hawk, Stalker, Flint, Hawk again, Lieutenant Falcon, Beachhead, and even Sergeant Slaughter, and kind of compare and contrast some of these different versions that I have here as well. Technically, this is the first one I got a couple of years ago. When I say first, I'm gonna have to get my timeline down. When I say first, first that I rebought. So I initially got him in, I believe it would have been 1983, maybe 1984, when I found him at our Dan's in Monterey, California. And that's back when I was basing my purchases on what does the figure look like, but more importantly, how much stuff does he come with? And this notion of the figure coming with a gun, a backpack, and a helmet was one of the main deciding factors. But when they also came with a knife or a set of binoculars or some other gear, then even better. Something else they can wear. The problem is when you have this on him, it does obscure him a little bit. But he looks like some kind of 1930s pulp serial hero. It's almost evocative of Indiana Jones, the way that shirt looks. Let's take a look at him from top to bottom. Duke has slightly longer hair, slicked back. It can be either a light blonde or it can be a kind of tan, light brown. He's supposed to be blonde. He has brown eyebrows and brown eyes. And as we look at some of these other ones, you're going to see different shades of brown, different paint masks used, different shapes of the eyes and the eyebrows. And I got lucky getting this one as my first one. However, my second, third, and fourth one, not so much. Different colors of eyebrows, different colors of eyes, better or worse painted eyes or eyebrows. It wasn't until I got to this one that I got another one, and we'll go over why the foot pegs or stands are falling off. But you notice this one has darker hair, much darker and thicker eyebrows and eyes. Some of them don't have that. I'll also go over why I have so many. Heels breaking and crotches breaking is the main culprit of that. And then buying a figure, and when it gets here, realizing the photos on eBay lied. Not lied, but sometimes you can't see everything. We'll set him down for now. Continuing down, Duke has an open collar. He seems to be wearing two shirts, or a shirt and a jacket. I'm not entirely sure. In most media, it's usually drawn either in comics or on the cartoon as a tan shirt. The way the sculpt on his chest looks, it looks a little bulkier, like it's supposed to be a jacket, like maybe a World War II jacket. Those are some pretty big pockets. Not stitching, but the way this line is here, and what looks like could have been epaulets or just more stitching. On his shoulders looks thicker. I think because of the constraints of how the sculpt was done back then, you know, his arms are a little punier looking. He's got rolled up sleeves. You don't see a green undershirt under there, but I'm wondering if maybe these were supposed to be painted. But in the end, I like the two collars, but it also confuses me, and it's never really referenced anywhere else. I think on Sunbow, the way he's drawn, sometimes it almost looks like there's two collars, but they're both tan. He has gold jump bars, airborne qualified, I believe, on his chest there. The original mail away, which I think this figure might have been, because the card I have with him is the mail away card, had a decal included, an American flag sticker that was supposed to go on his right bicep. I believe this one had, yeah, it did have a little bit of adhesive, kind of dirty adhesive stuck on his arm, which I cleaned off. This sticker is from one of my extra sets for the mobile missile system. It's smaller. I think it's, because it's vinyl, it's clear, but it works pretty good. I just stuck it on there just for shits and giggles, and I actually ended up liking the way it looked. So across Duke's chest, we have a green bandolier that matches the same color as his undershirt. Because he uses the same, I'm going to carefully take this off. Because he uses the same back mold as Doc and Gung Ho, though, there's no bandolier continuing. It didn't really bother me as a kid. Looking at it now, I don't care. Would it be better if it went all the way around? Yeah, but he's still a pretty good looking figure. Continuing down, his waist and legs are molded in this same olive green. The plastic that he is made out of is prone to breakage as it ages. And again, that's why I kind of ended up with so many Dukes. His groin kept cracking off. I remember when that happened to my original one, probably around 86 or 87. One day I went to pose him, snap, his groin went flying, and that was that. I think I might have tried to, you know, glue it back on with Elmer's glue or super glue. Yeah, it didn't work. As this plastic ages, it can get more brittle, but a lot of times it may come from well-meaning sellers or people who are, you know, trying to repair their figure. Put a new O-ring in it. If you put the wrong size O-ring that's too strong or has too much tension, or you swap out the metal T-hook in there and it's too big, it's going to push up against the back of this, and it's going to put pressure on that. And, you know, what, 30, 40 years ago, it wasn't a big deal. The plastic was newer and probably way more flexible. Not so much now. So one of the first things I've done after losing 2 Dukes a couple of months ago, I've taken an emery board, sanded down the back of his crotch here, just a tiny bit, and if I find that the T-hook is a newer, thicker one, that would be seen on a later figure or a newer replacement, I take it out and I fish out, or I take out, either from my box of parts or from a older figure that I don't care about, that's in not great shape, and I swap that out. When you do that, you also got to be careful though, because prying the halves of his thighs apart, even just taking the screw out, you can crack the screw mount in there, or you can break the peg that goes across here for his knee articulation. On some of these Dukes, when I've got them, there will be faint stress marks on either side of his groin, and I'll take a hairdryer, I'll dab on a little bit of plastic weld, and usually after doing that they will fade. I've also put some back together and immediately seen them come back, and that's when I learned, okay, nope, we gotta swap out that T-bar and put a thinner, slightly larger O-ring in there. He has an unpainted holster that wraps around his entire right leg, a black painted pistol. His belt and his pouches and his back pockets are not painted, but again, that's okay. His lower legs are shared with Gung Ho. His boots here are painted brown. And again, getting back to fragility issues, I've noticed this with a lot of figures that have heels that come down that are thin. Another reason why I ended up with more Dukes is putting them on a figure stand and those cracking off. Sometimes it will look like it's fine. I'll usually go through and I will sand down using a nail file or emery board and add or take enough off that it causes this to be a little bit more conical shaped, to kind of get narrower. And that way you can still insert it into his foot without it putting pressure on the inside walls of his heel. Unfortunately, even if you do that, if he gets jostled, if he falls off a shelf and lands just right, which happened to one of my Dukes, that is enough to jolt this, to have a little bit of a shock travel through there. And a couple months ago, I picked one of my Dukes up off the floor after he fell off the table when there was some gusty wind coming in here. And this whole side, not this particular figure, but he had lost a pretty big chunk of his side of his heel here. That part is now either on this Duke back here or this Duke in here. And I did some repairs with some plastic weld, but it doesn't look right afterwards. There's a little bit of damage to the paint. Some parts will be a little shinier, a little duller. And for a figure that looks and feels as premium as this one and is as hard to get in good shape, I can't handle that. My OCD won't allow it. So I went a little apeshit, ordered some extra Dukes for parts. Some of them got here and the parts were unusable, either from discoloration or breakage or whatever. I'd get irritated by another one. That one would get here and would have, maybe 85% of it would be good. Buy another one. And I kind of ended up with 5 Dukes. And these 3 in the middle here, while they're not necessarily bad, anybody else other than me would look at them and say, oh, I got a Duke. I got a good Duke. My search is over. Not me, unfortunately. It wasn't until A couple of weeks ago, I came across this Duke in person. So the two best ones I bought, first and last, have both been ones I found in person. This one has much darker hair and darker eyebrows overall, but both their faces look really good, teeth look good, overall coloring looks good. This one here has a much brighter, well, darker paint on his jump wings. This one has much lighter. I mentioned Duke's accessories being a key factor in what made me want to buy him. I love when they come with binoculars or a pouch. Anything that can sling over their shoulder or hang around their neck looks cool. He came with a green version of Stalker's pulverizer submachine gun, this time in a light green. I believe Stalker's is dark gray. I still don't have one. One thing I've noticed though, most of these are similar in color. Some of the shades are a little bit different. Kind of like with his helmet, they can vary. But this one here is a very, very bright, almost apple kind of green. Much more richer. Same thing with the helmet. I don't know how well it's going to show up here, but the helmet is a lot darker as well. At least to me in person. I don't know that the camera's picking that up. But again, it's like that with Firefly's submachine gun and phone. It's like that with Roadblock's Mod Deuce and his tripod. There can be a lot of variation. Okay, let's try not to bump this again. I was going to try not to have zooming in and out because it looks unprofessional to me now, but I bumped that earlier, trying to get this to focus. So compared to some of the later figures, is he as detailed? Are his proportions as good? I mean, a lot of the earlier figures are more spindly. They only have the swivel neck, not the ball and socket neck. But the aesthetic, the design style of them still looks good. And it doesn't bother me as much now. Now, with age, they've all kind of blurred together. When I was younger and seeing the changes as they were happening, I'm like, this doesn't match. These don't look like the same line anymore. And, you know, I've mellowed a little bit in my old age now, thankfully. You can see a little blotch of green paint there on his neck, which I could probably remove with some rubbing alcohol, but I don't want to mess with that. I could always swap it out with one of these other chests. I mean, I've got enough of them. But everything else on him looks perfect. This is a little faded or rubbed off, but I don't know that I want to touch it up. They don't all have to be as dark as this one. The thing about Duke's face is it's very expressive. Look at him. Look at this happy boy. And sometimes the way it's painted, he can look a little derpy. The other thing I really like about Duke is this backpack. Airborne comes with the same mold. They would look alike at first glance, but when you put them next to each other, the difference in color, even when some of these have some differences in plastic color alone or sun damaged, you can tell airbornes apart pretty easily. Airbornes will also usually have a cross molded in there, some additional support lines. I'm balancing how much stuff to grab and shove in your face on camera. It took me a while just to set up all of this and these additional figures up here, showing the chain of command. One of the things I try to be careful of, though, with a lot of the earlier waves of G.I. Joes, these helmets can be very tight. Here, let's put you on this one then, I believe. Yeah, maybe. Let's lean you back against there. The helmets can be very tight. Anytime you're dealing with brown eyebrows, they tend to scrape off very easily. So I mainly put these two on. I usually don't display him with a helmet. He wears it once in a while on the cartoon, usually when he's piloting a Sky Striker or a Silver Mirage. But for the most part, he doesn't really wear the helmet. I like having it to have him complete, but I usually just leave it on his hand, so I can show off that he's complete, but not have him wearing it. And there's a variation, of course. He was released both with the holes in the sides and without them. I believe Roadblocks comes without the holes as well. And Roadblock is another one that, yes, he comes with a helmet. Yes, I like having him complete, but I don't usually display him with the helmet. And I usually have him holding his machine gun with both hands, so I usually just leave his helmet in the storage bin with all the other accessories. You can see just looking at these two, vast difference in the color of the eyes and eyebrows. You can't really see the eyebrows very well with the helmet on, but this one is a darker brown, this one is a lighter brown. This one here is a very, very dark brown. And his eyes are also a little crooked. And for some reason, just that little bit of variation in how his face is painted can change how he looks a little bit. These two look very similar, but this one looks better to me. This one looks a little derpy. There's also variations in how his hair is molded. You can see on this one here, either because of the mold or some thickness of the paint, some of the details are showing up a little bit better. And if we look at this one here, that's currently my favorite, the details are much more muted. From what I understand from half-remembered research and watching other videos, there were differences in the mail away and the retail version as well. So which is which, I can't remember. I just look at them and I go, you know what? I like this one better than the other one. And we gotta focus again, come on. So I think I will keep this one to the side to compare and demonstrate things. We'll move these others aside for now. On this one here, you can see he has the accessory pack gear. I just mainly wanted to illustrate the differences. I wish they had picked better colors. The brown helmets and backpacks look somewhat decent on some figures. For the most part, not so much. The gray pulverizer submachine gun is okay. It looks good still. This looks terrible. I hate this color. It doesn't really go with anything. You can't accessorize. You notice this Duke is very, very badly yellowed. I started going through and swapping parts around to put all the worst parts together, get them off of the other good figures. I believe this Duke, when I got him, his thighs were different colors. Half of one was one color, half of the other was slightly darker or lighter, but they were both sun damaged. I think one of his arms may have been as well, or somebody's was. But you can tell here, this arm isn't too bad. I think this is a little bit darker, but this upper arm and his chest are very, very badly yellowed. What's funny is that discoloration actually makes him look more like some of the later reissue figures where they make him more with a cartoon deco, give him more of a cartoon yellow or comic book yellow deco instead. I like this very, very light tan better. So this one I've been leaving with a green helmet in the passenger seat of the APC. That way when you catch glimpses of him, you can tell Duke's in there, but you can't tell how badly he's aged. Let's put him back over here. The other Frankenstein Duke, and I believe that one has one of the cracked heels that I repaired. Yeah. You can see some misshapen damage, some markings on the outside edge. Well, it's not really outside, but closer to the outside than the instep. There's a mark there. So again, plastic weld works really good at getting this harder plastic to go back together, but unfortunately, it doesn't always do exactly what you want it to do. So this Duke in here, when we look at him later, it's not going to show up on camera very well. He has multicolored thighs. I think one arm is a little bit more yellow than the other, but the rest of his parts look decent. Oh, and the other thing I forgot to mention, with both of these, that is a reproduction crotch. I wanted to check those out, see how they looked in person, if the plastic matched or not. I picked up 2 of them off of eBay, because otherwise I would have just had 2 extra Dukes with broken crotches lying around. And I was like, well, at least if I shell out some money for some repro crotches, if they look good in person and he's just sitting in vehicles, that frees up the other Dukes for something else, for other scenes or dioramas or displays. To my eye in person, the green is a little bit off, but not bad. The sheen of the plastic is a little bit different, but it doesn't look as glaringly obvious as something that's been 3D printed. thankfully. They look like they're injection molded. So, happy boy in the Skyhawk here. Let's take a look at these other versions of Duke really quick here. Okay, I have two different versions of Duke's file card. Let's review that quickly here. This one here, actually I have two of these with the same backing. It's just a plain cardboard backing. And if you look a little closer at the border where this person cut it, it is white with black dots. Not dots, but dashes. This one's the opposite. This one is black with white dashes, and if you flip it over, you can see the front of the card art. And Duke mocking you with a crotch that will never break, unlike the figure. He's also got... That gun looks familiar, a rifle. That is Snow Job's laser rifle, which gets used by everybody on the Sunbow cartoon. The other difference in these file cards is the portrait itself. On the mail-aways, it appears to be zoomed in closer and just his head and shoulders. This one is a little bit farther out, obviously. But the other difference on top of that is this one is multilingual. I believe this one's from Canada. That looks like French to me. So it's a little more truncated. Doesn't have all of the bulk of the middle part of his file card on here. It's just basically the quote at the end. They both do have his details up here, which I will now read for you. His specialty or title is First Sergeant. His code name is Duke, obviously. File name is Hauser, Conrad S. There's his serial number. His primary military specialty is airborne infantryman. That's why he has these jump bars. I believe they are called on his chest. There, or I could just do this. There. These ones are painted better. His secondary military specialty, though, is artillery and small arms armor, which never gets referenced. I don't know if the artillery is similar to, like with Hawk in the missile system, or I don't know. Small arms armor doesn't really come up ever, anywhere. His file card reads, Duke was fluent in French, German, and English when he enlisted in 1967. Graduated top of his class at Airborne School, Fort Benning. Opted for U.S. Army Special Language School. Specialized in Han Chinese and Southeast Asian dialects. That's really never touched upon, that he speaks Chinese or Southeast Asian, which I believe would be Vietnamese. Went Special Forces in 1969, worked with tribesmen in the boonies of South Vietnam. Yeah, that would be why then. Ran 4 different Special Forces schools. Turned down a commission in 1971. Commands by winning respect. Current assignment, acting First Sergeant, G.I. Joe team. Statement after declining commission. They tell me that an officer's job is to impel others to take the risks so that the officer survives to take the blame in the event of total catastrophe. With all due respect, sir, if that's what an officer does, I don't want any part of it. So Duke's place in the hierarchy or chain of command of the Joe team is a little weird. In the comic, Hawk was the leader initially, and then he commanded the team overall, passed on General Flag's orders, and usually Stalker would be the field leader. Stalker kind of held Duke's role before Duke. So he's not an officer, but on the Sunbow cartoon, he is pretty much leading the entire team. There's no mention of Hawk. There's a General Flag, who doesn't look anything like General Flag in the comic. There's a Colonel Sharp, who actually looks like General Flag and has Hawk's rank. Again, why they did that and didn't have Hawk in there, I don't know. Would have liked to see Hawk get some love. We don't see him until 86, when the second season comes out and we get Ronald Reagan running around in there. So that was kind of a letdown. So anyway, referring back to his card here, none of this stuff about Vietnam ever gets brought up. I wouldn't expect to see him mentioned as part of the same long-range recon patrol as Stalker and Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow, but it would have been nice if Hama went back and did something with that. Maybe they get to a village and Duke is there working with that particular tribe. So that was his file card. Let's take a look at the figure itself next. Okay, so let's take a look at all the versions of Duke. Obviously, we have the 1983 that we just reviewed. We didn't get another Duke until 1988. And I'm going to post some different photos in the beginning here that show some variation, but this head is ugly. I went ahead and popped this one back on him for the purposes of this section, but that's not how I normally display him. What I normally do is I take this other Duke head, which I don't like the shape of the eyebrows, and he has little piggy eyes, but it's still better than what he has currently. So we'll look at this one really quick. We'll compare them. But just know he's not staying stock. I am missing his submachine gun and his binoculars. He was cheap. But I hate the skin color. The plastic just seems cheaper. The flesh color is just not as natural looking as this one. I don't think they painted his teeth. His face looks kind of bloated, and it could just be because his eyes are like little squinty piggy eye paint apps. His eyebrows are kind of puny. Looks like he overplucked. I like the color of the shirt in green. I don't like the red that much. The tan pants are okay. The tiger stripes are okay, but if you notice, there's some differences here in the mold and the parts used. His arms are actually hit and runs, and his waist is Cobra Officer and His Driver, probably because of the breakage. I don't know why they changed the arms. Maybe they weren't available. There's a Japanese carded issue of Duke in his normal colors, though, with those same parts, and I kind of want that. I don't like the ribbed for her pleasure sleeves. I don't care for that. I like the rolled up cuffs, but just to have them, just to have another version of Duke, be worth it. I like the green backpack. I like the tan helmet, but again, it's just kind of a one-off. I got him just to have him, and I had a chance to get him at a decent price. Let's see here. Okay, we are in. And for some reason, this neck has like extra parts. You can't really see on this one, but this one just has the standard kind of mushroom peg with a tab sticking out the back to keep the head from spinning around 360. This one has two on either side, and I don't know why they did that. This head doesn't really fit on other bodies, but that's okay because it's not going on anybody else, ever. Okay. This is going to be a little difficult with the camera in the way, probably. Let's see, focus. I can usually push this down, get this arm to stay, but this arm does not want to stay. Oh, this time it does. Okay, good. However, when I put the head on, which I've now lost, there we go. It's probably going to knock that arm off. No. Okay, good. There. This head, I think, is yellowed a little bit. There's some weird artifacts or noise coming through on this soundtrack clip for some reason. Okay, there we go. Again, the way the eyes and the eyebrows are painted on this one just looks like garbage compared to how this one looks. But again, I don't care about this figure that much, so he gets an ugly head. I don't know what that was. I'm wondering if whoever ripped these didn't realize there were some other sound effects that were on the same tracks, maybe, when they ripped them. I don't know. I thought I heard somebody moaning earlier. So, just little variations in the mold or the paint can drastically change how a figure looks. They look completely different, but you can still tell it's the same person. And that stand is coming off again. Even now, I'm extra careful because I do not trust that not to break. I've been hurt before. This Duke, the eyes weren't painted as well, but it still looks better than that one. And this one doesn't have teeth. So, I think actually before I started filming, this one had like got milk ad mouth going on. All his white paint for his teeth was on his lower lip, and I just removed it with some hand sanitizer and the edge of my X-Acto knife. Just lightly scraped it off. So he has no teeth painted in. I could touch it up, but like I said, I don't. He looks good enough sitting on the shelf. He's fine. He'll be fine. So we'll put him back together. Throw his binoculars back on. On this table, because something's wrong with the legs, it kind of slants backwards a little bit. So I will usually put the stands on them front to back with the long side facing backwards to give them a little bit extra stability, especially if they have a backpack, because they'll fall over backwards. With him, since I've shaved these down, he's a little more rickety on the stand. But again, that's fine. I'd rather have that happen than have it break on me. Put your field glasses back on, boy. There we go. So the next Duke we got was 1992, and I remember getting this one at Payless. 1992, it would have been my senior year in high school, and I was not done collecting toys yet. I actually bought this fairly early, recently when I rebought them, because there were some figures I knew I could get fairly cheap and either complete them or was able to find them in the condition I wanted without, you know, terribly drastic yellowing or cracked elbows. He actually came with the Battle Core Roadblock as well, so I got them both for a pretty good price. I think he had his missile launcher, but I don't really use those at all, so he doesn't get displayed with it. He has a reproduction of his original gun in black that came with I think a retro collection stalker from 3 or 4 years ago from Walmart. He has some additional sneak peek binoculars, which I tried to buy a ton of those. He has a original Duke backpack, and then he's got his helmet. I do want his machine gun. I like the way that looked, but I haven't come across one that doesn't have stress marks yet. And buying weapons on eBay is a little more difficult because if you can find a seller that has, you know, 4 or 5 weapons or backpacks that you want, it's worth it because, you know, you get to combine shipping. If you find one weapon you want that's like, you know, anywhere from $1.50 to $7, it's worth it. But if you're then paying $5 to $6 for shipping for one item, it just doesn't feel right. Now, if it's a very rare weapon, like, you know, Tunnel Rat's flashlight is missing, you know, one of them is missing, or Outback's unbroken machine gun, submachine gun with a strap, you know, yeah, sometimes I'll splurge. But for something like this that I don't care that much about, I'm not in any hurry. I'll get it when I get it. He has some very bright red. Kind of almost matches the red on there, on Tiger Force Duke. He's got more of it. And then the red camo down below. But there's still something about this figure that I like. His head is not one of the things that I like. That nose, I freaking hate that nose so much. He just looks like a parody or a caricature of somebody. The severe flat top is a little weird too. The color and the texture of the hair overall at least harken back to the original Duke, but I can't stand the way his forehead and his hairline look. Then we get one slightly updated again, and I loved this figure when he came out. 1993, so I would have gotten him after I had graduated. The sculpt is a little similar. The nose protrudes quite a bit. It doesn't have a ski slope slant to it like this one does. It's more Roman. It's more like mine. More Snape-like. I wished he had a removable helmet, but that helmet does look cool. It's a little small, but again, gave him that same machine gun, submachine gun, and I gave him sneak peek field glasses or binoculars, and I gave him an original Duke backpack. I love this tan. Overall, it reminds me of Bespin Luke. I wish he had another color on him. The brown camo looks good, but the brown straps, being the same brown as the camo, everything just kind of looks a little cheap and washed out and bland. Maybe if they had colored his straps green, like his original bandolier. I had actually touched up this one, we'll get to him, with some more silver paint, like on his watch, his knife, and his pistol, and then I stripped it off. I just went back. I think I had also painted another one. I tried a couple different colors, black, blue, silver, and I ended up leaving his goggles silver, and it looked good, but I wanted to leave him stock original. This is the second Star Brigade Duke. I have the 93 Duke rolling around here somewhere. Well, what's left of him. I beat him with a hammer so I could remove his head. And the head looks like a slightly more detailed version 1 head. Just a little crazier looking. But trimmed some stuff on it, and it actually fits on the Tiger Force Duke body. It's scaled a little bit smaller, but it looked decent, but I don't know what happened to it. It's rolling around in a box here somewhere, and I can't find it. This head is like huge compared to that one. And kind of like the 94 Desert Paratrooper Flint head. It's bigger, scaled up bigger, has awesome hair, big hair. Kind of harkens back to the earlier Duke, but much more serious and kind of older. I like that his hair is longer still. It's not a flat top like Hawk's. It's slicked back. And I have 2 of this Duke, mainly because I'm using his body for a custom Battle Core, Grand Slam, and Flash. Let's put him back, and let's take a look at 93's body with 94's head. And this looks really good. Unfortunately, that helmet will not fit on him. If you put this Duke's head on this body, it looks decent, and you can fit the helmet on, and it looks really good with the helmet on, but this head is a much better sculpt. I had posted some pictures. You know what? Let's just do it here. I had posted some pictures of putting this head on the 92 Duke. But let's just show you, and let's show you the vice versa too. Let's take that off, set that down. I like when I can do this just right. With the ball and socket heads, it's way easier, of course. If I can do this just right, I can stop them before they fall apart completely and just swap the head quickly and get the screw back in. So that looks good, but it looks a little too good. I kind of liked him with the derpier head, and like I said, this helmet, will not fit. I could get it to fit, I could heat it up, but it's not gonna look right. It's gonna bow out weird. So that doesn't work, but that's okay. Again, that does look cool. Looks a lot like he did on the live action commercials that were out at the time, where this guy who looked like Guile was playing Duke and had a very, very severe flat top. Again, Hawk has the flat top, you know, at least in the beginning. Hawk has the flat top. Duke does not have a flat top. Duke has slightly longer hair that is brushed backwards. Actually, that doesn't look good. That doesn't look good at all. There's too much tan going on now. It makes it look like a pith helmet. It's all right. But again, I don't like this head. His eyes look too close together. He's got a little cutesy ski slope nose. I don't like it. Yeah, nah. Anyways, that's all the versions of Duke that I have, minus the missing head from the Tech Armor 93 Star Brigade Duke. But that's okay. It wasn't great. I think what we'll do next is we'll look at the rank and file. No, just the rank of the leaders of the G.I. Joe team, or some people who end up leading. Actually, I'm going to leave a few people out because otherwise we'd be here for a while. There's a lot of other officers. Other people have used the argument that, you know, special forces units don't always obey the normal chain of command. It's whoever has the greatest experience. It's a toy line. It's a toy line in a cartoon and a comic book. Larry Hama's version of how stuff happens is usually much more believable. I like Duke as first sergeant or top sergeant. He's a field leader. Hawk is in overall command. Flint should outrank Duke, but that's okay. I like Flint. Flint's one of my favorite characters. Flint is probably my favorite character overall in the end. Flint being third in command, I'm okay with that. It leaves out Stalker, Lieutenant Falcon, Beachhead. Beachhead's a ranger. I can see Stalker being in there because Stalker was a field leader in the beginning and gets used a lot later on because of his relationship with Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow and Scarlet. But Beachhead, it just feels like a leftover relic from the cartoon. So we're going to take a look at that next. Here, you get back in there. So I know a lot of people don't like Duke. Some people do. I'm in the middle. I like certain aspects about the character depending on which part of the lore it is, action figure, cartoon, or comic book. I like different ones for different reasons. I like him more than I dislike him, obviously. I like Hawk better. I like Flint better, but I still really like Duke. And there's something a little bit more enticing about it since it's a difficult figure to get now. He's ridiculously expensive. And he's fragile as all get out. Everything on him can yellow, discolor, break. But if you get him in good shape, he's kind of like a centerpiece of your collection. All right, let us take a look at him in the overall hierarchy of the leadership of the G.I. Joe team. All right, confused? Yeah, you should be. Some of this will make sense, some of it won't make sense, but it's all part of the lore. The lores in general. So, everyone's in agreement. We started off with Hawk as the only leader. Colonel Clayton M. Abernathy. And typically we saw Stalker leading missions when Hawk wasn't involved. So Hawk was basically the proto-Duke. Whoa. This has never happened to me before. Get on there. I was reading the comic before the Sunbow miniseries came out, and I really liked Hawk. This doesn't look much like him. Hawk has a flat top. Hawk does not look like Lieutenant Commander Data. But this is what the figure looked like, and I like it. So I make allowances. But Hawk will always have a flat top, be a colonel, and a bit of a dick. Stalker was leading a lot of the missions, cracking wise, reading people the riot act when needed. And Duke does that in a lot of his early appearances. Here's Duke, of course. Again. Again. God damn, that's a heroic looking figure. He just has a lot of gear. So something I liked as a kid is now more of a hindrance and an annoyance. Especially when trying to film a video, record a video. So we started off with Hawk, we ended up with Duke, and then we came back to Hawk again. Oh, what the hell's wrong with me? Oh boy. No. Then we had Flint, actually. Flint doesn't take as much of a leadership role in the comic. He's in there. He leads a few missions here and there, but not as much as he did on the cartoon. And definitely not as much as he did in Action Force. He was the face of G.I. Joe over there. Again, Flint is probably my favorite character. Is my favorite character. It's gonna change here and there sometimes, depending on what mood I'm in, or what figure I've got in my hand, or just bought, or hunted for years and years. But again, military, but just like Duke, has this pulp serial action hero vibe to him. He is freaking awesome. And then we go back to Hawk again, but it doesn't look like Hawk. I'm very nostalgic as far as this figure is concerned. I like the brown hair and how it looks with the overall figure. Again, bomber jacket, camouflage pants. Very World War II. But Hawk is supposed to be blonde. So what about Lieutenant Falcon, though? Again, in the comic, later on, he's leading some missions with Duke. He seems to be in overall command, but also yielding to Duke's advice. Almost like Duke is in a mentor role or training him for leadership, even though he outranks him and should be in command. Beachhead I threw in here because of the cartoon, obviously, where supposedly the command structure is Hawk, then Duke, then Flint, then Beachhead. And then Shipwreck, Lifeline, and Dial Tone share the next spot. Technically Sergeant Slaughter should be in there too, or maybe I'm just misremembering Arise, Serpento Arise, but he comes in and basically takes everything over. He's leading missions. He's bossing people around. He's bossing Hawk around. But again, he's a gunnery sergeant. He's a drill instructor. So his role is similar to what Duke's would have been originally, but they just more focus on the drill instructor aspect of his character and have him come in and punch people. Based on how the comic book did it and how I would prefer to see it, you know, obviously in here I'm going to use this version of Hawk just because of the costume. I would say it's Hawk, then Duke, then Stalker, just because of his seniority. Yeah, he was there before Duke, but you gonna stand? You gonna fall? Stand or fall? Then Flint. Then Lieutenant Falcon. Sergeant Slaughter has his place, but he's not a leader. Why is Flint so small? He's not Italian. He's not like me. He looks like me a little bit, but Falcon looks huge compared to him. So that's how I would rank him. Beachhead, no. You get out of there. Sergeant Slaughter, you're badass, but no. You're a gimmick. Nah, let's do this. It's crazy how much bigger Duke is. It doesn't show up on camera as well, but in person, looking at it past the camera, Duke is a little bit bigger than Hawk and Stalker. The whole thing with, that's the thing. That's why I don't have Duke displayed with a jump jet. I mean, yeah, he's kind of associated with it. Enough figures come with it. But it just smacks too much of G.I. Joe the movie. And while I like some aspects of that, you know, him and Falcon being stepbrothers was, I don't know, not really needed. I think if they had gone with the original idea of Falcon actually being Hawk's son, that would have been more interesting. They should have done that instead. But they didn't. But the way he was used in the comics by Larry Hama, Falcon was a pretty good character. Especially in the IDW stuff later on, when he got shot in the face and kept going. That was crazy. So, there's other Joes that have technically leadership roles. Ace is a captain. Steeler's an officer. He's a first lieutenant. So, I mean, he should be on the same level as Lieutenant Falcon. He might even outrank him. Wild Bill and Cutter always seem to be, like, partially in charge as well. There's Colonel Courage, which that name is terrible, but the figure actually looks pretty good. Roadblock even has some leadership roles. What's his face here? Keelhaul. He's a friggin' admiral, for crying out loud. But Colonel Courage, I remember hating this figure in the stores as a kid. And then I got him cheap on eBay, and I was like, I don't need his weapons. He can just, I'll just give him whatever. And putting a Falcon backpack on him and giving him Muskrat's shotgun. Why didn't I give him Falcon's shotgun? Because it's with a Flint figure instead. He looks better though. Would I like him better without the neon green? Yeah, probably, but it's not a deal breaker either. I just wish there was something to break up some of that black painted detail on his chest. The tie is black, but then it also kind of bleeds into the grenade and the knife and his holster, and kind of clashes with the neon green web gear. But this is actually a pretty good looking figure. Maybe I'll get another one later on and I'll paint his straps a different color. You can see I did add some gold paint to his collar and to his full bird colonel rank insignia up there. He kind of gets thrown under the bus. He doesn't really get used. It's a good looking figure though. But there's not much about him other than he likes to wear a tie. That's really all I know about him. I remember reading his card. There'd be times where I'd go to Payless or Kmart and I'd want to buy a figure and I'd look and either they didn't have what I wanted or the figures they did have are ones I had already, and I didn't really buy extras back then. Usually I couldn't find troop builders, and for single figures, they weren't breaking back then, so I didn't see any need to buy extras. Jed was going crazy buying Outback over and over and other figures. But Admiral Tom Selleck here, again, should be in a leadership role, but like I said, if I put him in there in the lineup, we'd be here all day. I wanted to get a video, I wanted to be able to speak clearly and enunciate properly. I wanted to get a video up for Memorial Day. Well, of course, I want to thank everybody who served for what you've done for this country and your fellow man, your fellow countrymen. Thank you. You guys get one day and you should get more. You deserve a lot more for what you have to sacrifice. I'm putting up a video about a little plastic army man, so I mean, that's not really much, but just wanted to throw that out there. Thank you for your service. I'd say let's look at the Skyhawk really quick and then we'll wrap this up. So this has been the leadership portion of the video. Let's take a look at the Skyhawk.